Okay, Chairman, we're live. You can begin the meeting.
Thank you, and welcome all to a virtual meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee of the London Borough of Hillingdon. This meeting is being broadcast live on the Council's YouTube channel, Hillingdon, London. My name is Councillor Simon Arnold, and I am the chairman of this meeting. Before we start, some important online housekeeping for everyone present. Please ensure any mobile phones around you are on silent. Please keep microphones muted when not speaking and then unmute to speak. Only one person should speak at a time, and I, as chairman, will call on those to speak and keep an eye on the room through my gallery view on those indicating. If you wish to speak, please indicate by either waving your hand or using the raise hand button on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. If you do use the raise hand button, please unraise your hand once your question has been asked. Before we move on to the formal agenda, I'd like to do a roll call of councillors present to confirm attendance. Please indicate you are present when I say your name. Councillor Raymond Graham.
Present, Chairman.
Thank you, and good morning. Councillor John Oswald.
Yeah, present, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you and good morning. Also, please can the other members present indicate that they are in the meeting. Licensing Officer Ginny McKeeve. Sorry, I can't pronounce your name.
It's Mukherjee. It's Mukherjee. Present, Chairman. Good morning.
Legal Advisor Carrie Munro.
Good morning, Chairman. Present.
Good morning. Democratic Services Officer Steve Clark.
Morning, Chairman. Present.
Good morning. Democratic Services Officer Elizabeth Penny.
Present, Chairman.
Good morning. On behalf of the applicant, Pithrasingham Sivashankar, and I'm terribly sorry about that pronunciation, sir. I can see you waving, but you're on mute.
That's perfectly all right. So you can call me Shankar. I am from Compliance Director representing the applicant.
Shankar, thank you. Responsible Authority Daniel Ferrier.
Present. Good morning, Chairman.
Other parties, Trevor Shirling of the Northwood Residents Association.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning to you, Trevor. And John Dolling, local resident.
Present. Good morning, Chairman, everyone else.
I believe that's everyone. If I've missed someone, please indicate. No, I'm getting nods from Democratic Services. Wonderful. In terms of technical meter control, if any councillor leaves the virtual meeting partway through for a period of time, e.g. lost connection, I will continue the meeting unless we are not at quorum, which is 2 councillors. Importantly, if a councillor drops out and has not fully heard the statement made by the applicant or other parties for a period of time, they will not be able to determine the matter but may continue to take part in the meeting. To help avoid this, if a councillor does drop out, we may ask the relevant party to repeat their statement. If any other present drop out during the meeting and have not heard all the statements made, Democratic Services will advise on the best course of action. The agenda. Apologies for absence.
No apologies for absence, Chairman.
There is an apology. Sorry, it's the legal officer. It's the Reverend Lind won't be present.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
We'll go by the written representations.
Thank you. Are there any declarations of interest before this matter? No, I'll take silence as a no. To confirm that all items of business are marked Part 1. Is that correct? Thank you. Are there any matters notified in advance as urgent? No. In which case, we will now consider the following matter. Application for the grant of a premises licence to COCO Leisure Limited, 35A Green Lane, Northwood, HA6 2PX. Now, the order of proceedings, for those of you not aware, are as follows. There'll be an introduction from the licensing officer, after which the councillors will be able to ask questions, followed by statements from the applicant, then the responsible authorities, and then any other parties. During each process, councillors will be able to ask questions. We will then have more of a general discussion led by the councillors, followed by closing remarks from each party, and then the councillors, myself and officers will deliberate the matter before coming back and offering chairman's announcements of the decision. So to that end, we will start, and we start off with the licensing officer to present. Ginny, may I pass over to you, please?
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, everyone. So you will have all received the report bundle and will be familiar with the salient points of the application. So, like the chairman mentioned, this is a hearing to consider a contested application for a new premises license for a bar/restaurant submitted by Mr. Sanjay Malik, one of the 3 directors of the applicant company, COCO Leisure Limited. And they are represented by Mr. Shankar here this morning. The premises previously had the benefit of a license shown at Appendix 9, which lapsed in August 2020 due to the license holder company, Azuri Restaurants Limited, going into administration and not transferring the license. This application is on similar terms to the lapsed license for the sale of alcohol, late night refreshment, provision of dance and recorded music, but with additional hours which run till midnight on Sundays, till 1 o'clock in the morning on Mondays to Thursdays, and till 2 o'clock in the morning on Fridays and Saturdays. The premises is on High Street with mixed retail and residential use. The licensing authority has submitted a representation, and a further 3 representations have been received from the local residents associations, the church, and Mr. John Dolling. And you will have seen my comments at paragraph 7.2 regarding those. I recommend the grant of the license with the addition of conditions as appropriate to uphold the licensing objectives. But this is a decision for the committee, and I would invite the members to determine the application in whether to grant, refuse, or amend the application as applied for. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. We'll kick off with questions. Councillor Oswald, do you have any questions?
No, Chairman, thank you.
Councillor Graham, do you have any questions?
No, thank you, Chairman.
Sorry, Chairman, you're on mute at the moment.
Sorry about that. Okay, we will now move on and hear from the applicant. Shankar, if you would like to talk us through.
Good morning, Chair, and good morning, the panel, and good morning, everybody. So my name is Siva Shankar, and I'm more than happy for you to address me as Shankar. And I am the agent representing COCO Leisure Limited for this premises license application today we are looking at. As you would see on the agenda papers on page 4, the current opening hours that we have proposed for these premises. But after considering all the representations, mainly from the residents, we are amending this opening hours. So I will take them slowly, sir, the new amended hours. I would like to, before I go to the hours so that you can have a look at them, if you go to page 63 of the agenda papers. I know it is going through computer is a bit of a... Page 63 is I believe it's the previous license for this premises starts. The license that is lapsed. Now, these premises had a license during the previous justice's license, which was then transferred through the new licensing act from 2005, and it continued to operate as a restaurant with this premises license that is on page 53 until July. Last year, I think the lockdown practically closed a lot of these businesses, and this is one of the casualty of the lockdown. And you can see, so what we are amending the hours are, if you look at page 64, on the top, it says, so we are amending the hours from Sunday to Thursday to exactly to match the hours that the premises has been operating, which is licensable activities from 10 o'clock to midnight for sale of alcohol. So the Sunday, Christmas Day is delete that because that was the previously transported hours. So practically from Sunday to Thursday, the sale of alcohol will be 10 o'clock to midnight every day, every regardless of whether it is a Sunday or Christmas Day or whatever. And the regulated entertainment will be from 2300 to midnight 30, and the late night refreshment will be 2300 to midnight 30. Closing at midnight 30 on Sunday to Thursday. We are leaving the hours as applied for Friday and Saturday. So that's the major change to our application on opening times. I'm more than happy to go through them again if that helps you. But if you want to see the hours more clearly, I think the licensing authority has provided a better representation. That is on page. Let me just get that correct. So if you look at page 5, sir, on the agenda papers, and somewhere in the middle of that table is the old Ask Restaurant 35A Green Lane. And if you see on the right side of that, the hours are given for those at that time, the licensed hours. So it is Monday to, so this is slightly different to what is there. So we are doing Sunday to Thursday, 10 o'clock to midnight for sale of alcohol, 2300 to 2330 for regulated entertainment, and 2300 to midnight 30 for late night refreshment. And that's Sunday to Thursday. And the Friday and Saturday are remain as our applied hours, which is on page 4, from 10 o'clock to 0200 hours.
Is that the end of your statement, sir?
No, sir. On top of that, we have also, you will see there's we have looked at the representation from the licensing authority, and we have taken on additional conditions, which is on the addendum sheet that is provided. There's an email which you have provided to the licensing authority, where we have agreed to almost all of the conditions except one, which was the waiter service. We believe that with the regulated entertainment attached to this license, waiter service can be an issue, and I don't want the odd occasion turning into a criminal prosecution. So that's the only reason we have said that waiter service may not be a suitable arrangement for this particular premises. But we are taking a condition that alcohol is ancillary to table meal as requested by the licensing authority, which is also, you will see, reflected in the previous license. And that's where we are.
Was there anything else you wanted to add there?
Not at this time, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll just go to questions. Councillor Oswald, do you have any questions?
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairman. Question for the appellants. Could you tell me, please, why you think it's necessary on a Saturday to have a closing time of 3 a.m. in the morning?
So the alcohol hours, the licensable activities will finish at 2 o'clock. So normally the drinking up time, normally it is half an hour. A lot of people do half an hour drinking up time. We were making that slightly longer as an hour. This is initially, if you in the licensing act, it was supported that not to have definite closing times, to have a gradual dispersal time. And we believe this way people could remain in the premises while they are calling for taxis or while they are dispersing. So not everybody is going outside and waiting for taxis, rather than they can wait inside as the taxis arrive, or whatever transport they want, they can gradually disperse. So this is give us a little longer dispersal time. We believe it will be less problematic outside. It will be more quiet. But I mean, if that is an issue for the panel, we will be more than happy for a half an hour drinking up time, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chairman.
You have a follow-up, Councillor Oswald?
No, Chairman. Thank you.
Councillor Graham, do you have any questions?
Yes, Chairman. First of all, I'd like some clarity on what's written on page 29, section 18. It states under D that music will be played at a level that would cause a nuisance. I'm sure that's a typing error, and I'd just like that to be noted and corrected.
Indeed, sir. Thank you very much, sir. We should have written a council letter corrected that. I apologize for that. It certainly will not cause a nuisance to residents.
Thank you. I assumed that was the case. Chairman, as far as I'm concerned, I think that ask the previous occupiers of these premises who held the licence. As far as I'm aware, they had a business that caused no problems locally. And personally, I think I would like to see the hours for all the various trading, etc., to mirror what they had and not go beyond midnight.
Councillor Graham?
Yes.
With respect, what this stage is asking questions. If we've got any questions towards the agent, and we can have a communication on our perspectives at the deliberation stage when we go around the table and make our thoughts known.
Okay.
Yes.
So, on that basis, do you have any further questions, Councillor Graham?
No, not at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. In which case, we will. Sorry, bear with me. We will move on, and we will speak now to the. There is no responsible authority. Is that correct?
There is, Chairman.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Daniel.
We have Daniel Ferrer on.
Daniel, if you'd like to present. Sorry, I couldn't see you there on the corner of my screen.
There's so many individuals. Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, everyone. My name is Daniel Ferrer. I am the licensing team manager at the London Borough of Hillingdon. I'm also the representative in this case of the licensing authority as a responsible authority in relation to this application concerning 35A Green Lane, which has been brought on behalf of COCO Leisure Limited. Just to recap this, I've had to sort of juggle a few things that I'm going to say, but I'm wary and appreciate the comments made by Shankar. The applicants have still applied for sale of alcohol, recorded music, performance of dance and late night refreshment. We have raised a representation in relation to 3 of the licensing objectives: prevention of crime and disorder, prevention of public nuisance and public safety. And therefore our representation is still being maintained. Obviously, I try to discuss my submissions in relation to the changes that have been made. You would have noted, and Shankar helpfully pointed out, that the representation had attracted correspondence from Shankar, basically agreeing to the conditions which we're grateful for, apart from the waiter and waitress service, but also the SIA door condition. We still have some concerns with those, and I'll highlight those when I go through the relevant licensing objectives. Generally looking at the licensing objectives before we go into each one, I would say, I think, to be honest, the style, the operation of the premises is one of concern, and I appreciate what Shankar's saying, because they have applied for, and I quote, as a bar restaurant with an outdoor rear garden. And so our concern is that the operation in practice may change to a more vertical-led drinking establishment rather than a restaurant. And indeed, our proposed conditions and our submissions are based on keeping it maintained as a restaurant. And so we have suggested those 2 conditions, and those 2 conditions are essentially restaurant conditions. The supply of alcohol at the premises shall only be to a person seated at a table meal there and for the consumption of a person ancillary to their meal. And the supply of alcohol shall be by waiter or waitress service only. And I appreciate, again, the comments made. Those are our ways of ensuring that it remains a restaurant and there is limited vertical drinking. And I understand the concern that Shankar has in terms of if they breach that condition, it may be potentially offence. But that is our way of ensuring that it remains a non-vertical drinking establishment. So I just wanted to put that out there. In terms of crime and disorder, much of that has been, I would say on our side, resolved. Our main issues were the two methods of those measures, the CCTV and the incident log, and they have been agreed. Essentially, the CCTV we wanted 31 days, an authorised officer to request that data, also for a staff member to be familiar with the working of the CCTV when the premises is trading. And also that incident log is important to us to ensure that the operator records the issues that they may face and is good due diligence. I think prevention of public nuisance is the key one for us. And I think the Fridays and Saturdays will be the concern of that 200 hours finishing time for recorded music, dance, late night refreshment, because that 2 o'clock will have potential, we say, effects on the residents living within the vicinity of the premises. And again, they have agreed to two proposed conditions, one about no noise shall emanate from the premises and a written dispersal policy. But you will note in my comments, in my full representation, I've stated that we have a concern about the proposed finishing times. Earlier finishing times may wish to be considered by the applicant. We acknowledge that throughout Sunday to Thursday, that has been addressed, but the Fridays and Saturdays, we still say that there may be potential concern for residents. For example, they've agreed to that dispersal policy condition. I've yet to have any details about the written dispersal policy, so maybe that's something that can be discussed further. And also, I think Councillor Graham mentioned the issue of that the undertaking that no nuisance would be provided. Again, the levels, that's quite general from their operating schedule. So something along the lines of if there is a sound recording limiter that they may have, I'll be interested to see if they have one of those proposed at the premises. And also the goal measures for that would be helpful. And finally, in terms of public safety, the issue of SIA door staff. Now, equally, I could have put the issue of SIA door staff in prevention of crime and disorder and also prevention of public nuisance, because we say these SIA door registered staff are key to controlling these licensing objectives and ensuring there's no issues. For example, they look at dispersal, they look at advising customers to be quiet. They also look at ID checks, capacity checks, and also any bag searches. So that's particularly key on Fridays and Saturdays. And our concern is there, the proposal in the addendum is, Shank has mentioned that they start at 2300. We would say an earlier time to carry on those checks before customers actually got into the premises. We would be grateful for that. Chairman, those are my comments in relation to the slightly amended application. If there's any other queries that you or members may have, I'll be happy to answer them, but those are my submissions for the moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniel. We will start with questions. Councillor Oswald, have you got any questions, Daniel?
No, not at the moment. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Graham, have you got any questions?
No, Chairman, not at the moment, thank you.
My only question, Daniel, was how smooth has the applicant engagement been?
I think, to be fair to the applicant, you will see from the addendum, he sent his email on the 22nd of January, and if it's anyone's who's been slow in the process, that has to be mine of last week. 8th of February, my response was to consider all of it. And so I haven't had a response from Shankar from the 8th of February, but I would say it's quite a smooth transition, and we welcome the comments, but obviously invite further discussions.
Thank you. Kerry, you wish to ask a question?
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to establish what control measures will be put in place for the garden. What are you suggesting for the garden area?
Sorry, is that for me, Kerry? I assume it's for me.
Yes.
Is that for Shankar? No. I'm assuming it's for me. Nothing specific at this time. There has been a change. I'm sure Shankar would have his proposals, but we would say appropriate conditions to minimise the effects of public nuisance.
Shankar, did you want to come in on that? I saw you raise your hand.
Thank you, Chair. I think that is an error from my part, actually. I think there were two plans that was given to me initially by the applicant. And the first one did have a very small black and open area. And further to conversation with the applicant and within myself, they have actually now taken that off. So there is no garden area anymore. And unfortunately, for whatever reason, I don't know, the plan that we submitted is not attached to the agenda papers, which is unfortunate, sir. But so there is no garden area to talk about anymore. Everything is within inside only. Sorry about that.
Thank you for that clarification. Unless anybody else has any questions for Daniel as the responsible authority, no, we will then move on. Sorry, yes, Shankar.
Can I have a couple of questions to the officers? Is that possible now or not?
I'm just going to take some advice, Steve.
Not yet. We're just going to hear the representations from the interested parties, and then we'll move on to the discussion phase, which is a little bit more free form, and you can do Q&As with each individual.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we will go to other interested parties. In no particular order, I'm going to start off with Trevor Shirling, if I may.
Yes, good morning, everybody. So I'm Trevor Shirling, Planning Officer with Northwood Residents Association, and I'm representing the NRA. The NRA does not object to the sale of alcohol when purchased as part of a meal and consumed on the premises, but has reservations on other parts of the application. The NRA's concern relates to the impact of noise and disturbance to the residents in Green Lane and adjoining roads that could be caused by users of the restaurant leaving the premises, originally up to 1 a.m., but now I think earlier, 12:30 a.m., 5 nights a week, but still at 2 a.m., 2 nights a week, with staff leaving later than that, up to 3 a.m. Twice a week. The NRA has asked for the alcohol license instead to end at 11 p.m. And would like the sale of alcohol to end at 10:30 p.m. with no customers entering or re-entering after 10:30 p.m. As even then staff won't have left until perhaps midnight. I've listened to the hours that have been mentioned, and I would change that to being no later than the hours permitted under the ask license instead of those slightly earlier times. Referring to sections 14 and 15 of the application, we would like to see a positive restriction against customers taking drinks outside onto the pavement area or beyond, to ensure that they must drink any alcohol inside. Gathering outside can involve noise adversely affecting the residential occupiers, particularly in the evening. We also object to the takeaway service for alcohol, as that will encourage more movement in and out of the unit and can encourage gathering in the street. Again, it's the effect of alcohol late at night that can be a cause of antisocial behaviour after the customers have left the premises. So to avoid the separate sale of alcohol without a meal, especially if the alcohol is purchased and then consumed outside the premises, we would like to see a specific condition that all alcohol sold must be consumed inside the premises only and as part of a meal. Section 18D has already been accepted. It was a typo in the application. But we would like to see a positive restriction against amplified music, so it is kept at a level that it cannot be heard outside the unit, again to avoid disturbance, and a requirement for an entrance lobby for when people come and go to prevent music being heard outside. The agenda papers list other places in Northwood, as well as the Misty Moon public house just a few yards away, for the retail purchase of alcohol. So the concern of the NRA here relates to the adverse cumulative impact on Northwood of another unit selling alcohol as a standalone purchase during unsociable hours. So in summary, if I may, the NRA does not object to the sale of alcohol to go with the meal, as it is a restaurant. We would like certainty that all alcohol will only be consumed inside the premises and as part of the meal. We would like earlier finishing times for the sale of alcohol now in line with the ASK license. And we would like certainty that music will not be heard outside the premises at any time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sherling. That was very succinct. We will now go on to the second representation, which is John Dolling. Over to you.
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Ferrer and Shankar have very kindly dealt with the garden issue, which I did wonder where it was because there's an awful lot of space there. That was one element that might have made it a family restaurant as it was described. I think it's fair to say that the previous occupants ask could well be described as a family place to go to eat. But it wasn't very clear that a place staying open to these late hours really had the intention of being for a family. So I was obviously concerned. I am certainly not against the drinking of alcohol, albeit I think it's better done in residential areas within the confines of a restaurant. I was, however, very concerned about the lateness of the hours. I have driven past there, I have walked past there, sometimes quite late at night, and there is activity on the pavement, even in the ASK days. People just leave a place of eating, people leave the other places of eating in Northwood and also the public house, and there is inevitably noise. And I have known a number of the younger people, it's often they who can only afford to be in the flats above, who have had real difficulties from the disturbances that can take place. Even ordinary people speaking far from it in an intoxicated state make quite a noise when leaving. And I would be very strongly advocating that the hours are reduced. I would have no problem at all to the hours that are proposed, Monday to Thursday or Sunday to Thursday. I think Shankar described it. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Dolling. We'll now go on to questions. Councillor Oswald, do you have a question for either of the two parties?
No, thank you, Chairman, no.
Councillor Graham, do you have any questions?
Not questions so much. Can I state, though, that I'm very much in sympathy with what's been said by Mr. Sherling and Mr. Dolling, and I think it's quite clear from what I've read that the Reverend Lyons and the Fleet Ward councillors are in tune also with what they're thinking. I was pleased to hear that the garden situation has been scrapped because I think that might have caused some problems. I'll say no more for the moment. Chairman, I'll leave it like that. Thank you.
That's good. Sorry, as a legal officer, we have to follow the protocol with the question and seeking answers at this stage. There's one question that I would like to seek from Mr. Dolling. I would like to establish with the reduced hours. Is that something? Are you happy with what's been proposed by the agent, Mr. Shankar?
I was. Thank you, Chairman. I was, through you, I was more than happy with the proposals on the Sunday through Thursday, but I would still like to see the hours for the other two evenings, Friday and Saturday, reduced. They do not strike me as being for a family restaurant, and if all the hours were to align through Sunday to Thursday, I would personally think that preferable. Thank you.
Kerry, did you have a follow-up there? Or something?
No, I'm grateful. Thank you, Mr. Dolling.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Unless there are any other questions for Mr. Sherling and Mr. Dolling, we will move on. No, okay. We now enter into a more general discussion phase. So I'm going to kick off with you, Councillor Oswald. Are there any questions you have for any of the parties?
No, I'm okay at the moment. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Oswald. Councillor Graham, are there any questions you have for any of the other parties?
Not at the moment, Chairman.
And finally, does anybody have any questions to any of the other parties? Yes, Mr. Shank.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to sort of have a couple of questions to the licensing officer, if I may. I just want to refer to page 67 on the agenda papers, which is the previous license as a restaurant, Ask Restaurant. And the question is to the officer, the Annex 2 conditions, there is no condition regarding waiter service, and that was a restaurant, and that was a successfully trouble-free restaurant for more than at least 2005 to last year, without the condition that waiter service has to be provided. Would he take into account that it can be operated as a restaurant without that particular condition, quite a strict condition?
I assume that's addressed to the licensing authority. Thank you, Shankar. I note that is the case. What I would say is those two conditions paired together ensure, obviously, that it's more restaurant run. You described the situation where you feel like it's going to be more restaurant led rather than vertical drinking led. It depends on whether the committee trusts those submissions put forward. I can only put ways at this point in time, rather than the past, looking at a new application, how I would address those situations from the licensing authority's point of view. I do take your point, and I think it's a one which is raised very well on your part, but my counter in terms of how to minimize or even negate, completely reduce that issue is by that. Because what I believe my concern also is, if this premises ever sort of evolved, if it passed hands from yourself to another one, how are we going to ensure that it's properly non-vertical drinking? And that's how I can 100% concrete determine with those two pair conditions that it remains a more than a restaurant. So it's probably me setting a belt and braces, but I put it out there quite openly.
Thank you.
Mr. Dolling, you had a question.
Just unmuting. Thank you, Chairman. Interesting point to come in there between the two gentlemen. I would have thought that the waiter service was very closely linked to the hours. If one considers other places where one can go to eat and then also have a drink, those two things are frequently tied in together. And if there had not been the very late hours, I would personally have not so much as even thought about the waiter service issue, but it was the late hours that immediately sparked the fact that this is a place to go and have some drinks for the evening. And it's those issues, I think, that certainly disturb me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dolling. Daniel, did you want to come back on any of those points?
No, Mr. Dolly makes reference to the lateness of the hours, but no, I didn't see that as my rationale for proposing that. It merely is looking at wholly as the type of premises that it proposes to be.
So thank you for that. And Mr. Dolling, if you could unraise your virtual hand, that'd be great. Are there any other questions from any other parties to any of the other parties? No, in which case we will move on to closing statements. I'm going to, sorry, yes, Ms. Shankar.
Sorry, sir. Yeah, I'll probably deal with that in my closing statement. Sorry, it doesn't need to be a question. Sorry, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. In which case we will move on to closing statements. We will start off with the licensing officer, Ginny, if you'd like to make your closing statement.
I don't have any additional remarks to comment on, so thank you.
Thank you, in which case we'll go on to Daniel.
And just a quick summing up on my part, we've obviously raised the issue, our concern about the restaurant conditions, which has been talked about a lot, and just to highlight a couple of others, just that SIA doorman starting times would be nice to know. the concrete times, but also obviously the Friday and Saturday operating time in terms of potential nuisance to residents. Those are our concerns left outstanding.
Thank you. Mr. Schirling, have you got any closing statements you'd like to make?
Just to reiterate, this is supposed to be a restaurant rather than a wine bar or pub, hence having the alcohol as part of the meal only. And then it is disturbance to the residents, so a restriction against drinking outside the premises on the pavement would be very helpful as well, and the restriction on music, the sound of music being heard outside the unit. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Dolling, do you have anything you wish to add?
I think Trevor and the councillors have actually covered the points along with my own. Thank you so much, Chairman.
And finally, Shankar, the last word is with you.
Thank you, sir. I'll try and be as succinct as possible. I'll address a couple of issues that is raised by the NRA and the other gentlemen and the other residents. Unfortunately, as I said, the plan is not attached to this application. There is a lobby. There's quite a large lobby is being introduced to the premises, so people entering and leaving will not cause any noise to leak out from the premises. And we are more than happy to take a condition stating that there is no alcohol will be taken outside the premises while residents are frequenting these premises. I mean, apart from, the only, we have applied for off sales. That is only if somebody come and buy a takeaway meal, and if they want to get a bottle of wine along with that, that's the only time there will be an off sale. People will not be able to buy alcohol on their own. It is a restaurant in all manner of sense, the operation. And the only reason for us regarding the waiter service, there will be waiter service all the time, but there is a possibility, because we have applied for dancing, and if there is some kind of celebration, some families come for a birthday party or whatever, and there is some kind of dancing, and if one of those customers decided to walk up to the bar to order something, this particular condition will make us in breach, and it would be a criminal offence. So we are only just trying to deal with that kind of unnecessary issues. This is a premises where you can only come in there if you have a table booked and to have meals. You cannot visit these premises just to have alcohol, and that is a commitment, and that's the condition that we have taken to say alcohol shall only be sold to persons taking table meals in the premises and when ancillary to the meal, and that's a very restrictive condition to operate this as a restaurant. The SIA domain issue that Daniel has raised, as you can see, up to 12:30 the premises is open with no domain supervision. Only on those days we are opening beyond 12:30 we will be having domain, and we have started the domain at 11 o'clock. We have accepted for a dispersal policy to be written and approved with the council, and during that time, if there are any issues raised by the police or by the council, we are more than happy to relook at these particular timings. As you know, sir, on a prevention of crime and disorder, there is no police objection to this application. So the police's view is that this application does not cause any crime and disorder issues. We are very aware of the public nuisance issues. Hence, we have cut down our operating hours to match the previous hours to Sunday to Thursday. We do want people to come and have a relaxed time in this premises, especially with the lockdown hopefully easing. Families may want to come and spend a little bit more time in a relaxed atmosphere. Hence, the slightly longer hours we are looking for on Fridays and Saturdays. There's quite a lot of money is being put into these premises. Currently it is closed by the applicant. I know financial matters are not an issue for the licensing objective. However, it is important to note that this premises has been brought back to operation with quite a lot of more than £250,000 has been put in this premises to bring it back in a very nice restaurant. And I would urge the panel to sort of consider our hours, and that's all I will say at this moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shankar. The subcommittee will now adjourn and move to a private deliberation on the application prior to announcing its decision. This could take a while, so you do not have to rejoin the virtual meeting. A decision notice will be issued to the applicant in writing within 5 working days of the meeting, or you can contact the council's licensing officer later today to hear the outcome verbally. I'd just like to thank everyone who took the time to attend this virtual meeting today. Could I now please ask Democratic Services Officer to end the YouTube broadcast?